Hey, Lowco sports fans, welcome to another Lowco Pigskin preview. Getting you ready for round two of the playoffs here in the South Carolina High School League and the semifinal round in SCISA. It definitely goes by quickly, and by the end of the week, we'll know our state championship matchups for SCISA in Charleston Southern. I cannot believe we are just a week away from having state champions crowned, and we could have some Lowco teams. We did lose our squads in 3A, but we are guaranteed a state championship finalist in 2A, and certainly a good chance for another in 1A, but we'll get to that later. A big week for our 6 teams still playing. It goes by fast, and any week could be the last week of high school football, so definitely got to savor it while we can. And I'm Wes Kerr, that's Dylan Clark, and Dylan, going to be a wacky round two because of an incoming tropical storm Nicole, set to visit us on Thursday and Friday, so we have games scheduled all the way as early as Wednesday and as late as Saturday. So going to be a crazy, chaotic, but very fun week of football.
Yeah, and the timing of this tropical storm really hurts because teams that have to play Wednesday, that's a really short week, especially in a crucial round like this, especially for the South Carolina High School League being the second round, and then for SCISA being the semifinals. But it should be a fun week. We got some good matchups in store and possibly some upsets, but it's going to be a fun week.
Yeah, games are kind of spaced out. We don't have them all in one night, so it kind of gives us a chance to watch more of them, which I think is a cool thing because we'll have games most likely on Wednesday, Friday, and it's Saturday. And we have, I believe, 3 games scheduled on Friday as of now, 2 on Saturday, 1 on Wednesday. That all is very volatile and could change as we get more information. So we'll let you know. We'll let you know on Twitter and social media when those changes are made and take place. But yeah, I mean, going back to what you said about the scheduling for this week, it's definitely tough for most teams to have to plan a short week, and it kind of it puts more pressure on the coaching staff to kind of quickly devise game plans, and it kind of speaks to who's going to be the most prepared and which coaching staff is going to be on top of things. But definitely tough for the players on short rest. You don't like to see it because of injury factors, and there's always some tough things about having to play just a few days after your last game, but it's a measure that you had to take because of the storm. But I think in a way, especially for a team like Beaufort, which I think has a very winnable second round matchup and a good chance of advancing to round 3, I think it could help them because it gives them more time to kind of scout and get ready for a potential matchup down the road in the third round with a team like Gilbert, which could be a great game and a tough game for Beaufort. But I think for them, for some of those top seeded teams, opportunity to get the game out of the way on Wednesday and then have time to prepare and plan for the week ahead, I think it could be beneficial to some of those squads as we look forward in the bracket.
Yeah, for sure. If you go ahead and get one of these playoff games out of the way, it just gives you a lot more time to prepare. But then again, if you're Bluffton preparing for South Florence, you kind of wanted that full week, especially how South Florence has been playing. But it's the same thing with South Florence. They could have been preparing for Bluffton very heavily, and then they don't have it. So it's a double-edged sword. But I think overall it won't affect the scores too much. But it will definitely give teams more time to prepare for each other. So that means less mistakes and less penalties. So hopefully that works out and we have a good week.
Yeah, I think it favors teams with more depth and more firepower at the top and just more high-level talent all around in terms of maybe teams with just that one guy who they rely upon to make plays. But if you have that depth and a lot of guys playing at that high level and be able to kind of split the work around, I think that will help, especially on the short week. And I think you can say that for Beaufort because you have Casey Fields, and he's been the main guy, but you also have Colton Ferries, then you have Caleb Ulmer. And so when you have a game that kind of could get out of hand, as we could see against Crest, I do think it'll be a little closer than what we saw against Thornford Wilkinson. But even so, in a short week, kind of interesting to see how Bryce Labber will kind of operate the offense going forward. But we'll see what happens in playoffs. Got to have your best players out there in the game. So we'll see how different coaches will try to approach things on a short week, and kind of definitely speaks to which coach will have the most preparation, will prepare correctly, will be a big determinant of what happens on the field. So excited to see how these games play out. But before we get to more in-depth analysis of these games, some big football news coming across just yesterday. Rodney Summers, the first and the only coach so far of the Smear Richard program, announced that he is stepping down after a remarkable 7-year run. He brought that program from the ground up, starting in 2016, and it catapulted it to a powerhouse in the South Carolina High School League. He won 2 region titles, a record of 41-32, and a trip to the lower state championship game back in 2019. We had a team that was led by Ahmad Green, who's now balling at the Citadel. But what an accomplishment for Summers, a fantastic coach. Not easy to build a program up from scratch like that, and he did it. And I saw a lot of former players reaching out on social media and saying how grateful they were and of what he's done for them. So we congratulate Coach Summers on a job well done and wish him all the best going forward.
Yeah, it says a lot when you have former players congratulating them on the career and saying good things about them. That says he ran his program right. And like you said, to build a program from literally the ground up, that says a lot about his mentality. So I wish the best for him, and, new things are to come.
Once again, congratulations to Rodney Summers. Job well done at May River, and excited to see where the program goes from here. I think it will be a very attractive opening for some solid head coaches going forward. So I think it should be a very highly sought after job, and looking forward to seeing who gets the hire here. So I'm excited for the future of May River football, and congratulations once again on a remarkable job for Rodney Summers. So tough to see May River's season come to an end, but a very hard fought game. And speaking of that, let's run down these scores from week 1 of the playoffs. Round 1, Myrtle Beach, as I said, went on top of May River 24-21. They rallied from behind. They were down 21-10. May River was pounding it with Jaden Jones, but the Seahawks able to storm back with some outstanding conversions on 4th down, 3 straight on 4th down. That go-ahead drive to take the lead on the Tristan McGee pass to Jake Doty, but unfortunately for the Sharks, they had a chance to come back and fumbled the football away, and Myrtle Beach was able to pounce on it and seal the game. But excellent performance there by the Sharks in losing effort, and really proud of how that team fought and nearly pulled it out against a Myrtle Beach team that they did lose 6 games in the regular season, but they're playing that really tough Region 6, and that's a tough squad with some outstanding talent from top to bottom, and we saw the mettle of Mickey Wilson's squad, and a really impressive road win for them, and they had to earn it against an excellent effort from May River. So tough to see those careers of Thomas Reich and Jaden Jones come to an end. What do you hear Jones had on the ground carrying the rock? He was a staple of that rushing attack that did wonders all year, especially in that playoff game. And then Thomas Reich had a whale of a game. He was there to make a bunch of plays, went to the backfield for a huge sack, which I thought was going to seal it, set up a long opportunity for Myrtle Beach and brought about a 4th down, but Seahawks able to eventually convert, and they just they had that will to just keep getting it done, moving the ball down the field, and eventually scored. But tough loss for May River, but excellent fight against the Seahawks. Other scores throughout the first round of playoffs. Bluffton, what a huge victory for Hayden Gregory in his first season, picking up a playoff dub, 49-20 over Westwood. Max Von Hohenstraten with another tremendous performance, and he has been an absolute star these last few weeks. Great to see that from him. Von Hohenstraten, 401 passing yards and 5 touchdowns, including 2 to Jalen Linder. So another sensational day for Max Vaughn, and Jaquin Williams scoring twice in the grounds. The Bobcats able to pull away from Westwood. It was 20-20 late in the first half, 27-20 in the second half. Bluffton able to get the offense rolling, the defense shut it down against Westwood. So congratulations to Bluffton, but as a reward, you get to face Lenora Sellers and the South Florence Bruins, which will be a tough matchup. We'll talk about that later. But outstanding job by the Bluffton Bobcats and Hayden Gregory. Beaufort High, 52-0 over Orangeburg Wilkinson, starting off the playoffs with a dominant win. Eagles have been on a roll, and they will take on Crestwood this week in the second round in Class 3A. Battery Creek bows out 49-0 over Gilbert, but an excellent season from Terrence Ash and the Dolphins. Lady Hampton survived Central 13-7. They earn a matchup with Oceanside on the road this week. Andrew Jackson 66, Ridgeland 26. Outstanding job by the Ridgeland Jaguars. Rodney Barr and those Jags kept chopping, earned the playoff berth. Really happy for them and those seniors to earn that playoff appearance. And great to see him put up 26 against a really good Andrew Jackson team. So excellent job there from Ridgeland this year. Whale Branch falling short. Tough year for the Warriors, 43-21 to Lakeview. Couple tough injuries kind of derailing what was a promising Whale Branch season, but this team is very young and they're going to be back with a vengeance next year. So really, really excited for the future of Whale Branch football under Coach Jerry Hatcher. Estill surviving Hannah Pamlico in a 60-56 shootout. This one was a wild one. The Estill Gators find a way with a dramatic finish there, a kickoff return for a touchdown, heroics to win that ball game. And man, what a battle that was, high scoring affair. But Estill able to come out on top and move on to a match with Carver's Bay. So congrats to the Gators. It's all about survive and advance in the playoffs, and they're able to do it despite a tough day for the defense. But man, Hannah Pamplico, they got some stars on the offensive side. So definitely a tough game, but great to see them pull out the win and move on to round two. Let's head over to the SCISA side and talk about some of those scores. And you were at Hilton Head Christian Academy as you saw the Florence Christian Eagles come in and knock off the two-time defending state champs 43-36 in a heck of a shootout. Jules and Jewel Huntley putting on a show as they power the Eagles to victory. Tough to see the careers end for Matthew Scarpa, especially for Hilton Head Christian Academy. But got to give credit to this Florence Christian team. Outstanding game plan and executed perfectly. Unbelievable job by them, and wish them the best of luck going forward. And a tough one for Ron Peduzzi and the Eagles, but another great year. And excited to see Dylan Clark come back for next season. So a lot of good stuff there to take away for Hilton Head Christian Academy going into 2023. Wilson Hall 35, JP28, kind of second verse, same as the second straight week. These two teams have played, and Wilson Hall once again getting better of JP2 to end the Warriors season. Beaufort Academy 36-23 over Orangeburg Prep. So the Eagles advance to the 2A semifinal to take on the Carleton Prep Warhawks, and the game that we anticipated these last few weeks will take place. Carleton Prep 27-7 over Northside Christian. Beaufort Academy, I mentioned, 36-23 over Orangeburg Prep, and we'll get you set up for that outstanding semifinal coming up on Friday. Thomas Hayward 42-13 over Dorchester Academy. The Rebels rolling in the 1A first round. They will match up with a very tough Calhoun Academy team in the semifinals. And then St. John's Christian 42-6 over Patrick Henry. That was a surprise. St. John's, who we knew would be a team that could sneak up on some guys, absolutely dominated a very good Patrick Henry team. They will advance to play Lee Academy in the semifinals, and a lot of surprises, especially on the SCISA side with Florence Christian and St. John's Christian with that upset. Bluffton, great to see them get that win. But I want to hear your thoughts on just your takeaways from round one of the playoffs.
Well, it shows you anything can happen. Hilton Head Christian has been a powerhouse, to say the least, the last 3 or 4 years. And, a Florence Christian team that had some turmoil to begin the start of the season. They really didn't get off on the right foot. But, man, the two Huntley brothers, I can't say enough about them. They just played with heart and effort, and really Hilton Head Christian had no answer for them. They, Hilton Head Christian's offense really did their job. They still scored 36 points. It was just really the defense, and the Florence just wears you down how they did it. And then, Thomas Hayward, I said this, you don't want to face Thomas Hayward in the playoffs. They're just a different animal. They have been for the past years. And St. John's Christian was a team that, Patrick Henry beat 6-0 in I think it was the second week of the season. So just for St. John's, to change what they had to and win, that just says a lot about them. But if you're a Patriots fan this season, it was a good one. Coming from 8-man to 11-man is one of the hardest transitions you can make in football. So just for them to have a decent seeding and won some pretty good games, the season was not a fail. It's not where you want it to be, but I think, your program can build off of this and you'll be fine when it comes.
Yeah, absolutely. A fantastic season for Patrick Henry. It's not easy. We saw Beaufort Academy transition from 8-man to 11-man a few years back, and it's tough. And all the credit to what Patrick Henry did this year. Hugh Ferry, in and out of the lineup, had an injury, but what Michael Tucker Mathis did to step in and perform the way he did was phenomenal. And what an effort by this team, and was on the precipice of winning a region title. Was hanging with Thomas Hayward in the region title clash in Week 10 before the Rebels pulled away. But man, cannot say enough about how well this Patrick Henry team performed this year, and the future is certainly bright for the Patriots going forward. But just wanted to get in some more stats from that Hilton Christian game. As you mentioned, Jules Huntley, 286 yards and 5 touchdowns on the ground. Just a monster game for Huntley, who he is the real deal and just super athletic. And they're going to be a force going forward. Wish Florence Christian the best luck the rest of the way. But Dylan Clark, another sensational showing on offense, 453 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and then and 47 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. So what a year for Dylan Clark. I cannot be remiss without mentioning what he did, and just a phenomenal job coming in, learning this offense, and putting on the numbers that he did, especially late in the year, and just really excited for what he will do going forward in the senior season back here under Ron Peduzzi.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say enough about Dylan Clark. If you know anything about football, if you know anything about Hilton Head Christian, you know that the quarterback is the guy to run this offense. And even in the Florence Christian game, he accounted for every touchdown that was scored, whether it was passing or rushing. So that kid did an amazing job this year. I think there's more to come for this Hilton Head Christian team. So I'm excited to see him form, and because it's just his first year playing quarterback. So I'm excited to see him form into what he will form into next year.
Yeah, this is his first year. Just imagine what his ceiling could look under a full off season, and then now getting ready for a new season in 2023. So I'm really excited for the future of his team. And you got so many guys returning: Caden Turner, Tucker Tuvapal. I mean, the most of the core of this team, I mean, exception of a few, obviously Scarp is a big loss, but a lot of this core is returning, and I expect this team to be ready to compete in 3A next year. So I'm excited. It could be a big 2023. You got Gage Zadalokin back. You got Isaiah Anderson back. Dylan Clark, all those guys, Caden Turner, all of them will be seniors if they stay at Hilton Christian, which I think they will. You got James Crosby back. So a lot of returning stars next year. I think could be a big 2023 fall for Hilton Christian and Ron Peduzzi. So, great season by the Eagles, and expect a lot more to come from them. And one more shout out to John Paul II, because, I mean, a tough way to end it, but Christian Tilton, what a phenomenal year. He rushed for a touchdown. Unfortunately, he left the game at halftime with a broken hand. He suffered in the first surge, so that was a big blow there. That's tough. I mean, if you lose Christian Tilton, he was the guy this year providing the offense, and really tough for the offense to go forward without that leader, without that key playmaker. So Wilson all able to kind of ride their defense the rest of the way. And I thought John Paul too. I thought they played well defensively, but when you lose Christian Tilton, that's just a big blow to your entire team. But Bryant Jolly, 130 yards on 17 carries. Sebastian Slusny with 11 tackles and a tackle for loss. He had a monster year. I mean, that's a guy who I wish we could have talked a little more about, because he was sensational and provided such a huge spark defensively. And I also had a forced fumble in that game. So 4-7 record for JP2, and I think the record doesn't really tell the whole story, because they had a fantastic year and competitive against some really strong teams. They really took down Hilton at Christian Academy, and I think the sky's the limit for what Christian Tilton could do next season.
Yeah, the fact that Christian Tilton's coming back, I mean, we got some good returning quarterbacks in the Low Country, but Christian Tilton, it's hard to say he can top what he did this year, but that's one kid that I never doubt, because when he gets 200 rushing yards a game, I'm like, oh, he can't top that. And the next game is 275. So that kid has been sensational. Yeah, the record does not tell the story for JP2. JP2 was in almost all of the games they played. Just certain things happened that they couldn't recover from. But I think the sky's the limit for JP2. I'm excited to see what they do in the fall. And I know Coach Myers is going to have those guys prepared, and they're just going to keep getting better.
Love the way that Chris Myers has continued to build on this team. I mean, he had that winless year mentioned last week, 04 in 2019, and that's tough. Certainly hard when you're a first head coach and that kind of thing happens. But just love his ability to kind of grow this group every year. We saw what they did with Jeremiah Young, and he was able to take over under center and then passing the torch kind of to Christian Tilton, and he's been a sensation. And the defense has really taken steps to improve that side of the ball too. So love the way he's built that culture at JP2, and I think big things are in store in 2023 for Golden Warriors. So let's get into the South Carolina High School League preview, and we'll be joined now by my Horry News writer and Lowco correspondent, as well as Prep RedZone correspondent as well, Ian Guerin, to talk about the South Carolina High School League matchups for round 2 here on the Lowco Pigskin preview. All right, we are now joined by Lowco correspondent and writer for Prep RedZone and my Horry News, Ian Guerin. And Ian, how are you doing here today?
Another beautiful day in paradise.
Absolutely gorgeous day in the Low Country. Unfortunately, we will get some weather as we get later in the week because, Tropical Storm Nicole has already been throwing us for a loop as we get ready for the second round of the South Carolina High School League playoffs. Great first week of action. Got to see a fantastic game between May River and Myrtle Beach. The Seahawks coming out on top, rallying from behind, down 21-10. They knock off the Sharks 24-21 to advance to a matchup with West Florence. We'll get to talk about that one in a bit, but let's start with the weather situation. Since we've seen some games already moved up to Wednesday. We've seen some still on track for Friday, and some moved into Saturday, and then also some games moved to Thursday. Although Thursday and Friday looking certainly bleak as we stand here with some big time rain, fall, and tropical storm potentially as well moving into the Low Country areas. So. I'm going to make for a crazy week here in round 2, but just to give us an update on what you've seen from the latest forecast and what we should expect as we get into the rest of the week.
Yeah, I think what we're discovering very quickly is that Hilton Head and Myrtle Beach are very, very far apart. We're recognizing that, Wednesday and Thursday are not very much of a possibility down there. They have to be utilized up this way. There's just no way around it. The storm is. Look, we deal with this a couple times every year. We dealt with this with Hurricane Ian at the end of September. I think it's funny that West Florence and Myrtle Beach are playing for the second time this year, and both matchups are on Wednesday. Both affected by storms. Mickey Wilson made a joke about they're just going to schedule West for Wednesdays from now on. Just because you got to be able to adapt. And the only problem that this really presents is that you're going to have teams playing in round 3 on various amounts of rest and preparation. Teams are going to be able to scout. If you're already done with your game and your possible third round opponent's playing 2 days later, you can send your whole staff and go look and see them live. You could see some advantages come out of that too.
Yeah, that's a benefit for some of those teams, those higher seeds that will get to play on Wednesday, to have that rest and be able to scout and watch some other teams play and have that preparation time to get ready for a big round 3. So certainly some advantages there when you look at those teams that are playing Wednesday. But, like you said, weather is very different from Hilton Head versus what it is from over in Myrtle Beach. And certainly the forecasts are going to differ from place to place here in the Lowco. But here in the Low Country, it's looking like some of the teams like Beaufort, for example, are going to hold out for Friday, and it looks like the worst of the storm is going to get by us by then. But it could be different when you're looking at Horry County, where you might see some games, and you will see some games pushed earlier in the week, like the game we'll talk about first, Bluffton South Florence, which will be moved to Wednesday. So let's get into that game, and let's talk more about this 4A playoff bracket. Chalk holding for most of the way here when we look at what we saw this past week. Bluffton with the really only big upset, although I don't really call it an upset. I think it was a toss-up either way, and I think Bluffton had the edge in that game with the red-hot play of Max von Hohenstraten to propel the Bobcats to a nice win over Westwood, and that was a 20-20 tie near the end of the first half of the Bobcats just exploded offensively the rest of the way, and the defense dialed in and ended up taking it in convincing fashion, 49-20. Excellent win for Aiden Gregory. First season and first playoff victory already for the new Bluffton head coach. Great start. He has created a fantastic culture over there at Bluffton High School, but now you're going to have to go up against the Great Lenora Sellers and the South Florence Bruins, which will be a very tough task for this Bluffton Bobcat squad. But you know what? If you're the Bobcats, you got nothing to lose. It's going to be short rest, and it's going to be a quick transition for these guys. But, they're going to be pumped. Like I said, playing with house money, nothing to lose, and a great opportunity to get better and see what you got against a state championship contender.
Yeah, and I think that the lack of rest is, you mentioned it earlier. I think it is an advantage for those state powerhouse teams. I mean, same with Fort Dorchester in Charleston. They're going to be playing a Berkeley team who they've already beat by 40 or 50 points. You get in, you get out, you move on. Now, in this case, I think you also hit the nail on the head with Bluffton. Nobody expected much out of them in year one. They've already won a playoff game. I do think that they were actually favored against Westwood. I think Bluffton was a better team. It just so happened that, that was kind of the leftover effect of Ridgeview getting knocked out, and Bluffton was playing a team that was, not quite wasn't quite a 7 seed like they were labeled. So, Bluffton can come in the South, maybe do a couple nice things, keep the ball rolling. They get an extra few days of practice out of it at the bare minimum. I don't think they have much of a shot of pulling an upset, because I do think that, at this point, that would be the upset of the bracket.
Yeah, that would be massive if Bluffton's able to come in there and knock out the South Florence Bruins, but certainly a lot of work, and then they're going to have to get a couple breaks along the way. And Hayden Gregory and this Bobcat team, especially Max von Hohenstraten, is going to have to throw some kind of masterpiece in order to keep up with this South Florence offense. And the defense, they've certainly shown some good improvements. You got, like I said, two of the best linebackers, one of the best tandems in the area, Jeremiah Curry and Quentin Williams, but going to take a lot more in order to stop Sellers. And for those in the Lowco who may not be aware, just tell me more about Sellers in this game and what Bobcat should expect from him.
Yeah, he is very, very electric without always looking that way. He has kind of had this string of games that aren't great, but he's still, it's still a 4 or 5 touchdown game. I mean, he has so many different ways to hurt opponents. When they think that they've got everything lined up perfectly, it's a quick pass to his little brother. It's it's a run up the middle. Let's not forget that this kid is built like a linebacker. He's tall. He can see over the line. He's got great vision. He is just dynamic. And just when you think that you have got him stopped, it's a throw over the top, and it's a simple flick. He can throw off his back foot, his front foot. It doesn't matter. His arm is that strong, where he can make you pay. And I think right now that anybody who's not saying that South Florence is the favorite to win the 4A title is probably got a little bit of homerism going on, because they are that good where they can make mistakes and still make you look silly.
Yeah, and a lot of praise has been given to Sellers, and rightfully so. He has been just terrific all year, and certainly worthy of one of the top leading candidates for Mr. Football in the state of South Carolina. But South Florence, the defense has been impeccable as well. I've been a part of Prep RedZone with you this year. We've heard names like Jalen William Davis, linebacker, who's had an excellent year, senior, alongside some others on this roster, and just really proud of the way that the South Florence team has been able to really get so many contributions from their stars this season, and they have been absolutely excellent this year. And it was, being in top of Region 6, that was not easy, especially when West Florence was coming for you. Hartsville, that region was loaded with talent, but this South Florence team has really handled it all the way through, and certainly deserving is what I think is the favorite to come out of this lower state, although you got AC Flora right there, which could be a very juicy lower state championship potentially, and you never can count out Hartsville or West Florence. Could definitely see West making a run, although Myrtle Beach certainly has something to say about that. Only in terms of seeding wise, the only upset 13-4, but like I said, that was a toss-up as well. But I was able to get to that game personally, and was really impressed by the resiliency and that mettle that Mickey Wilson's team showed, down 21-10 in the second half, and then fourth quarterbacks coming alive. And then you mentioned some of the guys that needed to show up, and it seemed like everyone that you mentioned made a key play to get Myrtle Beach back in that game and eventually win it. But what an effort by the Seahawks team on the road. And you mentioned the guy who had to be a difference maker for Myrtle Beach, and he was Michael Gillard with a big stop on fourth down. Sharks with a 4th and 4 in the red zone. Gillard comes up to lead that stop as they were able to get Demold and stop him from minimal gain and hold him behind the sticks. And then how about the play of Ante Campbell, who was someone we didn't talk about, but sophomore coming in making his first start and ends up forcing the game-deciding fumble to seal it. But some big-time play as well from Wyatt Cannon and Tristan McGee. Cannon with a 44-yard pass to Kenny Brown earlier on in the game, and then Jake Doty showing his excellent athleticism to make that game-winning grab after the Seahawks converted 3 straight fourth-down conversions. Just incredible stuff there. Outstanding clutch play from this offense down the stretch to pull that one out. But, credit to Mickey Wilson for making some adjustments. They weren't able to get stuff going in the run game. Averaged just around 2.6 yards on the ground with Cam Ward and Malachi Washington, but they're able to get out in space a little more, throw the ball a little bit more in that second half, and they're able to find some rhythm with that and get the offense rolling. But credit to Myrtle Beach, terrifically played, well-played game, and some big news as well with the Rodney Summers announcing his resignation from May River. But what a fantastic career building that program from the ground up, and really proud of what Summers did at May River. But excellent win for Myrtle Beach on the road, and now a chance to knock off West Florence.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said it last week. I mean, Myrtle Beach is having its worst year in 2 decades. And here we are talking about them in the second round, playing a team on short rest that they did this, 5-6 weeks ago, and they only lost that game by 4 points. Whether it's Myrtle Beach just kind of getting up for the right spots at the right time, whatever it is, I think that West will win that game. I think that them playing at home, I think the way that Darren Lloyd is playing football right now is lights out. He's 127 yards away from 2,000 for the year, and nobody talks about him. And even, we don't even have him ranked at Prep Red Zone yet because we wanted to see what he would do his senior year because he wasn't even a starter on offense last year. And all he's done is come in and 28 touchdowns, something like that, 1,800 plus yards. He is a very dynamic running back. And, he's had 2 300-yard rushing games. He's our version of Casey Fields right now, with what he's doing. I mean, you get 1 year as a starter. Let's see what you can do with it. And you're putting up those kind of highlight reel numbers. Again, I think West has got to be considered a favorite in this game, but they're not a heavy favorite because Myrtle Beach finds a way to play them close even when they're down.
Those teams know each other too well in the same region, and I think this Myrtle Beach team, they got that, house money mentality once again. We just made it in the playoffs. It's been a down year, but we know we have the top-heavy talent, the senior leadership, and just that hunger to stay with West Florence and find a way to hang with them in the fourth quarter and look to pull it out. So certainly that one up for grabs. I do think West Florence are the favorites, but Myrtle Beach right there, and certainly we'll be eyeing that upset and looking to set up a match with either AC Flora or Hartsville in round 3. So, of course, you got James Allen, who's right up there, and certainly you cannot sleep on them. They got a tough matchup with Irmo, so a big-time statement opportunity for James Island in round 2 before they get a potential matchup with most likely South Florence. So a big one over there as well in Charleston for James Island. And you mentioned those Casey Fields comparisons. Let's segue right into Class 3A because Buford took care of business in that first round, 52-0 over Orangeburg Wilkinson. Nothing too surprising there. Once again, it was Casey Fields and that dynamic offense led by Samari Bonds at quarterback who's really grown into his role throughout the year. And absolute dominance over an OW team that they should take care of, and they did. And now we'll get a little bit of a tougher test in round 2, taking on a Crestwood team that beat Ainer 38-30. Back home, looks like this game will still be scheduled for Friday, but with the potential of it possibly being moved to Saturday, depending on the weather. But definitely a little bit of a tougher task for this Buford Eagle team. But like you said this week, if they continue to play their game and execute the way they've been playing, I think they could. You don't have to play their best game to get past most of the opponents. I think that holds true here. I think they find a way to get past Ainer and move on to round 3.
Yeah, I like Crestwood. I think that they're a talented team that not a lot of people spent a lot of time this year maybe talking about just because they are kind of in that island, that Sumter pocket that everybody talks about Sumter, and then that's about it. Javion Martin's thrown for 2,500 yards this year. He's thrown 30 touchdowns. More importantly, he's only thrown 5 interceptions. Granted, most of those are not against teams built like Buford. Buford's defensive backs, their linebackers, their defensive ends, they all play in this very harmonious style where it's this constant give and take. When you watch them, whether it's live or on film, you see guys supporting each other. And what that's doing is that's cutting down on opportunities for an opponent's passing game. If Crestwood can't throw the ball because Colton Ferris and his buddies are doing their thing, then this one could be over very quickly. And it doesn't even have to, Buford doesn't have to go out there and score 50 points to make it a laugher. I mean, how many of those high 20s to 6 or 7, 8 points, games have we seen this year for them? They come out hot. Casey Fields does his thing. They get a 2 or 3 touchdown lead, and then all they got to do is burn clock out. That's what really, really good defenses could do. That's what we saw from Camden last year. Really, they would just, it was almost like strangling people out, just being done with it. They don't have to have those huge offensive games, and I think that's why Buford is going to win that game.
Yeah, they have that playoff formula of getting ahead of you early and then using that rushing attack and that tenacious defense to just shut you down. And this is what I think we'll see on Friday night or potentially Saturday against Crestwood. And, definitely going to have to earn it. But Casey Fields, how can you bet against him at this point? I mean, unbelievable numbers all year long. And he has been really carrying a lot on offense, although we've seen some of Colton Ferries. We've seen some of Samari Bonds. And, I think that you don't even have to have an emphasis on throwing it. If you can move the ball on the ground, and I think they should be able to do that, just ride the hot hand of Casey Fields and that defense, which continues to play lights-out ball every week. And you mentioned that secondary of Colton Ferris, who's really been the main star, but don't sleep on Lamar and Jamar Knight, who have just been really instrumental in their ability not just play coverage, but be able to rush downfield and make tackles, and just an excellent job, incredible hustle. And it's rare to see them miss tackles and not make those plays. Really sound and electric playmakers, and I think they could have another big week here against this Crestwood team. They certainly have some talent in their senior receivers with Dominic West and Anthony Steele, but I think this Buford defense is going to assert themselves early. And if you turn the ball over against Buford, it could be lights out very, very quickly if you're the road team. So, if you're Crestwood, you got to play on the top of your game and you cannot afford to make any mistakes because Buford will make you pay. I've seen many 1-2 punches with this group, when it's forcing turnovers and then quickly paying them off, getting in the end zone with Fields and Ferries, and man, just so many electric players, and just so fun to watch this team. And they all buy in so well under Bryce Libran, and he continues to just be an incredible leader of this squad. And we mentioned it all season long, but it just seems like it's another guy that starts to step up. I mean, Dom Camacho, another guy who has been so huge in that secondary, who continues to make plays. And I mean, Jack Sumner's been able to really carry a good load on the line after losing a couple guys over there. And then you got Michael Dennison, Carter Bowersox. Just seems like everybody is they do their job at their position, and it's a great team effort all the way around. And then Colton Ferris, again, an outstanding job on special teams. He's a threat to take it all the way, and when he's able to get those opportunities. So it's a really, this Buford team, the way they match up, they can take them, they can handle anybody. And I think if they play a sound game and execute, it should be a good, sizable win for this Buford High team as they look to advance in round 2, and then that will set themselves up as we look forward here in this bracket to face off with Gilbert or Manning, most likely Gilbert, and then potentially Camden or Dillon in the lower state final. So definitely will get tougher for this Buford Eagle team, but like you said, I think they have the potential to beat and handle anybody that comes their way these next few weeks, but certainly will be tougher as it goes along. So Buford looking strong as they look to get back to the state championship for the second year in a row, of course, this time in Class 3A after they were in 4A last year. And let's move down to 1A because I'm really liking the shape of this 1A bracket. A lot of strong competition, and it's really wide open when you look at Johnsonville, who is the number one team coming in. Then you got Estill, who survived a close battle with Hannah Pamplico in that first round, 60-56. But it's all about surviving and advancing. You're able to get it done. Cross a sensational year, number one seed out of their region. And then you got Lamar, Baptist Hill, definitely a tough team to face in the playoffs alongside Bamberg Earhart. So a lot of high top-level talent here. And, I think it's up for the taking with these squads. And looking at Estill, our low country team that's still alive, Whalebridge falling to Lakeview in round one, but Estill surviving 60-56, as I mentioned, and some heroics there. A kick return touchdown after going behind in the final seconds to win it. So a dramatic victory for Estill. They survive, they move on, and now they got a tough Carvers Bay team that demolished St. John's 65-6, and they are looking really good themselves as they come into this ball game. And I think finding a way to win close was huge because I think Estill, they've been able to take care of teams that have blown a couple guys out this year, but being able to find a way to win a close one, it took some special heroics, but that's got to be a huge surge of confidence for them to be able to win a close game. Obviously, you'd like to see a better showing from the defense after you give up 56 to Hannah Pamplico. I'm not sure that was the result they wanted defensively, but we'll see how they respond here against the Carvers Bay team that just scored 65. But I expect, a little less low scoring of a game. Two teams that like to run the ball, and this Carvers Bay defense has been great. Tyrese Richard and Tyshawn Grice have been spectacular on the ground. Estill, can they bounce back defensively? I think they will, and I think we could see more of a low-scoring grinder in this one with two strong rushing offenses.
Yeah, and the thing with Carvers Bay is that, they finished second in their region. They had a couple, real tight. They played Johnsonville about as well as anybody has this year. But when you start looking at their quality wins, there aren't really many on the schedule. They beat the teams that they probably should beat in their classification. They lost to a couple of 3A teams that aren't very good, and Waccamaw, Georgetown, just playing county opponents. They got I'm pretty sure they got blown out by Andrews, which Andrews is still playing football, so it's not necessarily awful. But I just question if Carvers Bay has enough top-down talent to stay in this type of game. I mean, what we saw last week from Hannah Pamplico is a running back who's the sky's the limit for that kid, having a big night. He's been hot. They put it in his hands over and over again. He had a good game, and they got into a shootout. If you win one of those games where they throw the kitchen sink at you, but you advance, then you're usually better off, because then you're like, okay, well, we got to tighten up this on defense. Well, Carvers Bay doesn't have that type of running back. They don't have that type of fluidity on offense. I think that this is, a Stills game to lose.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think going against that high-end talent that they saw last week at Hannah Pamplico, I think they'll only help them improve and be able to kind of pinpoint some weaknesses. And like you said, I don't think Carvers Bay can present that same kind of high-end talents that you might see, even though Hannah Pamplico is a 4 seed. And I do think Estill that they'll take a lot away from this game, and I think they'll use it to improve themselves, especially on the defensive side. And Xavier Garvin, I expect another big game from him. I thought the offense was terrific, and I think the defense should have a bounce-back showing if they do that. I think they come out on top and advance to round 3. So what a season it's been for Estill. Their last year, of course, before they joined forces with the Wade Hampton Red Devils, become the Hampton County Hurricanes. So Wade Hampton's still alive as well. They'll be in the 2A bracket against Oceanside, a tough one for them against the powerhouse in 2A, but still a chance for them to get the opportunity and see what they can do and keep this journey going. So we'll see what happens here for both these Hampton County teams. It's been a great year there for both those squads, and just really excited for the future of football in that county.
Yeah, and I think, we saw that a little closer up this way with, Kingstree and C.E. Murray, joining forces to form what I've just dubbed New Kingstree, because I don't know how else to describe it. But, if you've got two programs that each have their individual talent stocked, and then they bring them together, all it is just about putting people in the right places. And Brian Smith at Kingstree has done a pretty good job considering some of the outside forces he was dealing with. We could very well see, another one of those potential, small school powerhouses in the making down your way too.
Really excited for the future of Hampton County and also for what we're going to see these next few weeks as we get deeper in this postseason, the South Carolina High School League. Still some Lowco squads are in contention to win some titles, and we'll see how many survive and advance on to round 3. Well, Ian, thank you so much for joining us here today, and look forward to hopefully getting you back on next week and talking some more football with some of our teams still alive.
Yeah, sounds good. Happy to do it, Wes.
All right, right back with more here on the Lowco Pigskin Preview. All right, thanks to Ian Guerin once again for his help here on this podcast, and look forward to having him back on next week. And let's talk about one more high school league game that we kind of delved into a bit, but Wade Hampton getting it done against Central in a grinder, 13-7, and so they earn a matchup with Oceanside and Oceanside Collegiate, the Land Sharks, a powerhouse in 2A, and they're looking like one of the favorites to go all the way to Columbia and capture the title. But for Wade Hampton, it's kind of the same situation as Bluffton, where it's an opportunity for you guys to battle and make a statement against maybe the top team in the classification. So what great chance here for Wade Hampton, and what could be the finale for the Wade Hampton Red Devils before they become the Hampton County Hurricanes next year. And your thoughts on Wade Hampton and what they could do potentially to pull an upset, although it will be very tough against a strong Land Shark team.
Well, I mean, you're playing with house money right here. You have nothing to lose, literally. So, yeah, I know Wade Hampton doesn't want their season in because this is the last Wade Hampton Red Devils team that there ever will be. So it's going to take a full effort. Oceanside Collegiate has been nothing but great this year. And people don't believe me when I say this, but anything can happen in the playoffs. You saw it with Florence and Hilton Head Christian. So, I don't doubt if Wade Hampton, maybe loses this game a little bit, but I wouldn't doubt that they win it neither. They got a grinder last week, 13-7, and if you can do that in the playoffs, that's how you win playoff games, and that's how playoff games are supposed to be. So good luck to the Red Devils. Hopefully they come out of there with a win.
Let me say, any given Friday in high school football, and this game will be played on a Friday night, so we'll see what the Wade Hampton Red Devils can do against Oceanside. And like you said, house money, nothing to lose in this matchup, and we'll see if they're able to put the offense together. I think it really all starts with Zion Dobson, who has really been the key that unlocks the potential of this Red Devil group. He's had a terrific year at running back. Dobson, 29 rushes for 85 yards and a touchdown in the win over Central. Chris Terry, 3 for 4 for 69 yards and a 34-yard touchdown pass to Elijah Gordon. He needs to be solid and kind of need more production out of him through the air if they want to keep up with Oceanside. But, that Oceanside defense is legit. They've given up 14 points, 12 points combined in their last 4 games. That is some sensational stuff heading into the playoffs. So that Oceanside team is looking like very tough to beat the rest of the way, but we'll see what Wade Hampton is able to put together. And, you're going to have to be strong on defense. Great performances last week from Hezekiah Abram and Nigel Solomon. Solomon's a nice two-way player. He got a pick as well. Those two each with an interception. Mandrew Sanders and Austin McGuire with 2 tackles for loss each. So we need something special on defense and some more big turnovers if they want to stay in this one with Oceanside. But win or lose, a strong season for the Red Devils, and certainly could be an emotional night if it is indeed their last game of that Wade Hampton school before they get ready to become the Hampton County Hurricanes. So we wish them the best of luck, and let's take a quick break now and hear from our sponsors, and we'll be back with our SCISA previews here on the Lowco Pigskin Preview.
This podcast is made possible by our sustaining sponsors. Our original sponsor, Mickelson Law Firm, the official real estate attorneys of LowcoSports.com. Go see Ryan and Tiffany and the Mickle Squad for all your legal needs and support the local businesses that support Lowco. Local Pie, official pizza sponsor of Lowco Sports. They sling the best pies in Bluffton and on Hilton Head, but don't sleep on the mac and cheese.
Hospice Care of the Low Country, the official hospice provider of Lowco Sports. For more than 30 years, the committed, compassionate staff at Hospice Care of the Lowcountry has provided a community-based, nonprofit solution to ensure everyone finds comfort, honor, and dignity at the end of life.
Star Home Services, official residential cleaning service of Lowco Sports. Sometimes you just don't want to clean. Call on Carla and her amazing team to do the dirty work at a great price and tell them Lowco sent you. 843 Sport, the official training center of Lowco Sports. No matter your game, 843 Sport is the place to take it to the next level. They're bringing all the area's top trainers and some of the best elite travel teams from various sports under one roof at 843 Sport. DDS Web Design, the official SEO experts of Lowco Sports. If you have a business and you want to get found, look no further than DDS. They can build an attractive and effective website loaded with all the cutting-edge SEO tools you need to show up where people are looking, on Google. Dave and Denise will get it done. Additional support provided by Cannon Specialty Services, Bluffton Pest Control, Next Move, The Fit Club in Belfair Town Village, and our Patreon members. Join today for $1 or more per month at patreon.com/LowcoSports to get early or exclusive access to our local sports content and exclusive Lowco swag.
All right, thank you once again to our sponsors for supporting our grassroots local sports efforts. And now, Dylan, let's get to our SCISA previews. And we're down to just two games. No anymore 3A teams. And we have a 2A. They actually have two 2A teams, which, of course, will be playing against each other. And it is the matchup that we have anticipated for the last few weeks. The SCISA 2A semifinal, College and Prep heading to Buford Academy. What a year it has been for the Warhawks, who didn't have much expectations going in, but Cole Davis and that College and Prep team, Craig Langdale, the coach, have just done a sensational job. Had that one loss, which was to the BA Eagles, 20-19, a heartbreaker, but they can avenge all that if they can take care of BA in this playoff matchup on the road. And Buford Academy, region champs, what a year it has been for the BA Eagles under Mark Clifford. And just so excited to hear your thoughts on this game that you got to see the first one. How excited you get back out there and watch the rematch for a spot in the state championship game?
This is awesome. This is everything you want, really. The first time they played, that game was sensational. It was awesome to watch. It's hard. It was hard to see a loser in that game because it's just how good both teams played. And this week, this game is probably the most literal toss-up we've ever had. BA only beat them by one, and one play determined who was going to win the game on a 2-point conversion. I really don't even know what one team's going to have to do better to win this game. I think it's going to come down to really just who scores, because I can really see this game being 6-0, and having a state championship with one of these teams. So it's going to be a grinder. I don't even know who to pick. I'd probably have to flip a coin. Both teams are prepared. Both teams are very hungry. Buford Academy with Braden Deneen, Devontae Green, Jackson Porter, Tayshawn Hayward, they got some studs. And then Colin Prep, the Davis brothers, and even Caden Crosby and Noah Cowerton. And so it's going to be one for the ages. You definitely, if you want to see SCISA football, this is probably the game to go to. This is going to be one of the best games in the Lowco. So it's going to be a grinder. I hope for the best for both teams.
Yeah, this is looking like the game of the year in SCISA. The first matchup was, so a lot of hype heading into this one. We'll see if we can top what we saw a couple weeks back in the regular season meeting. It will be scheduled for Friday night, although potentially moved to Saturday, depending on the effects of Tropical Storm Nicole. So we'll definitely keep you updated on that on social media. But man, just so excited to see how this one goes, because, I think it's going to be that chess match between two terrific coaches in Greg Langdale and Mark Clifford, because both teams are going to want to run the football, going to want to drain the clock. And I think I agree with you. That first score is going to be huge, because when you have that lead, that is going to be as good as gold. I mean, to be able to use the run game to drain out that clock, and because both teams love to run the ball and grind you down, that first score is going to be absolutely massive and determining the winner of this game. So I'm interested to see how both coaches kind of approach it. Do they kind of stay on the ground early, or do they look to throw the ball? Because both teams have been able to throw the football Braid Deneen has been a spectacular leader, and he's shown his touch on some deep passes to guys like Zeke Gonzalez and Tayshawn Hayward with a terrific breakout year for BA. But then on the other side, you have Cole Davis, who's shown his ability to throw the ball and connect with Caden Crosby, who has been the go-to target for this college and prep team. So it's going to be an interesting chess match to see how both coaches approach it. Kind of, what are your thoughts in how both of these coaches might kind of devise their game plans in this matchup?
Oh, I think you're going to see traditional old-style coaches' stubbornness right here. Mark Clifford, he's going to run the ball, and then Coach Langdale, he's going to run the ball too. So I don't think much will change. Maybe a little bit more passing, just because of how both teams can stop the run effectively. So I think you'll see a little bit more, and we did see a little bit more passing in the first time they played with Brandon Dean and Cole Davis. So it's a chess match is literally what it's going to be.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how both coaches will approach this and what their game script will be coming in and how it might change based on what outcomes play out early. So I'm very excited. And I mean, we mentioned some of the stars with Devontae Green, Jackson Porter, Braid Deneen. Zeke Gonzalez got some carries with BA in that win of Wardsburg Prep and made a huge pick on defense. And kind of how we haven't really talked about the defensive side, but that's a big factor too. Who can force those big turnovers? Braid Deneen is just, I love his intensity and hustle when he plays out there on defense. Never takes a play off, and you know how much he wants this as a senior. He's going to be going all out in this ball game. And Alex Williams has been another force for Buford Academy defensively, and a guy who could come in and make some big time tackles for loss and try to knock the football out. So I think those turnovers and potentially some fumbles or interceptions are going to be huge. The turnover battle in a game like this is going to be absolutely massive. But college and prep side, Noah Catterton and Walker Nettles have been an absolute studs on that college and prep defense and both D lines. I mean, it is going to be an old school football grinder. Everything you love about playoff football and being able to just grind out the other team and just win the battle at the line. I mean, this is a classic old school football we're going to see here on Friday night.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. I think a little bit actually is, whoever wins the turnover battle and whoever has the most possessions is probably going to come out on top of this game. So for both teams, keeping the ball in your hands, that's really what you want to do.
Going to be a fantastic battle for a spot in the SCISA 2A state championship game, and just a monstrous win for whichever one of these programs going to pull it off. Cannot wait to follow this one. I'm not sure if I will be there or not, but regardless, cannot wait to follow this Lowco on Lowco clash, and that guarantees we'll have at least one team in the state championship. And you know what? We may have two, because Thomas Hayward could be on their way as well to Charleston Southern next Saturday, because they took down Dorchester Academy 42-13. Dominant showing. Josh Gibson, Tyshawn Mansell, both with receiving touchdowns. Anthony Fripp, Antonio Banner doing work on the ground. Fripp with a rushing touchdown. O'Banner, Tonio touchdown, as we coined his name, with 2 also receiving scores. So another big day for O'Banner, but they're in store for a sneaky tough matchup against a Calhoun team, Calhoun Academy, that has been playing some great football coming in. And it's hard to call a trap game in the playoffs, but for Thomas Hayward, a team that's going for a 5th straight state championship, Calhoun's Academy, that's a team that can kind of sneak up on you, but I do think Nick Shuford and this Rebel team will be ready.
Yeah, Calhoun does a lot of a lot of things like Patrick Henry did with Michael Tucker Mathis and the quarterback. They run, kind of like the double wing, overload one side. When we played Calhoun and game plan for them, we always called it the best play in SCISA. They run a little counter that is literally the best play in SCISA. It works every time. But, I think Thomas Hayward has seen a little bit of the same things from Patrick Henry. And once again, you just don't want to play Thomas Hayward in the playoffs. Calhoun has never played Thomas Hayward since moving to 11-man. So it's the first time for Calhoun. It's the first time for Thomas Hayward. Calhoun's a good team. They're very disciplined. I just don't think they're going to have it against this Hayward team. Hayward's not as dominant as they were in the past, but they're still very good. Dorchester Academy, they're down, but they're not a bad team. They have playmakers, and they put up 40 points against them. So for Thomas Hayward, really, you just get the ball to your playmakers, make plays, and I think you're going to come out on top. I think Calhoun's probably going to try to hold the ball from you for a little bit. That's what they like to do. They like to run the double wing, just run it straight to you. But when you got playmakers like Tony O'Banner, Anthony Fripp, even Tyson Mansell at corner on defense, I think you're going to be fine.
Yeah, I'd like Thomas Hayward in this matchup, although Calhoun Academy will present a tough test. But I think this time, it's just so hard to go against and bet against this Rebel team coached by Nick Schuford, who has shown this ability to get the most out of his players in the postseason for these last few years. And the talent and the speed they have at the skill positions has just been tough to defend when you look at Tony O'Banner, Anthony Fripp. Of course, O'Banner, a freshman, but Fripp with all that experience as a senior, and you know that he's going to want to go all in for this matchup, and I expect a huge performance from him. But Dietrich Schuford, another guy, like I said last week, who wasn't in the playoffs last year, torn ACL, but coming back this year, I think it's an important prove-it game for him. And if he executes, performs well in that game manager role and gets the ball out to those playmakers, I think this Hayward team's going to be fine to score points. And the defense, I mean, Lawson Hill has been a monster. He's going to have to show up alongside some of those other two-way stars that we have mentioned. And great to see the emergence of Josh Gibson, because he continues to, week in, week out, he continues to be that extra piece of that offense when some of the other guys are covered. Schuford's been able to get out to Gibson for some big completions. So great to see his emergence. And Carter Williams, star playmaker on both sides of the ball. He's kind of the guy who can be the X factor and take over games, and could see that again this week against Calhoun Academy, but certainly not easy. I mean, this Cavalier team should give Hayward a heck of a game, coming in at a record of 10-2, and the two losses this year have been the St. John's Christian 14-8, and then Lee Academy 34-6, and they've picked up they've taken care of business. They've beaten teams that they should beat. They took down Dorchester Academy. They beat Clarendon Hall 29-6, and the defense has really been impeccable recently, but I don't think they've seen a team as potent offensively in the past couple weeks as Thomas Hayward. So I expect the Rebel offense to be the difference here, and I mean, the defense certainly has the skilled players to make contributions as well. So should be a great contest here in the SCISA 1A semifinal, but I expect the Rebels to pull away. But this Calhoun Academy team, I mean, if they're able to hang on to the ball and kind of shorten the game and find a way to put points on the board, it could put some pressure on this Hayward team.
Yeah, Calhoun, if you're a Calhoun fan, you want your team to keep the ball out of Thomas Hayward's offensive hands and then, score when you have the chance to. But if you're Thomas Hayward, you just keep doing what you're doing on offense. You keep playing defense like you have been, you'll be fine. And I think you'll win this game by at least 2 scores.
Yeah, I do expect Thomas Hayward to pull away late and come out with this win and advance to get another state championship game and go for their 5th consecutive SCISA title, which would be a heck of an accomplishment for Nick Schuford and this group. So we wish the Rebels the best of luck as they take on Calhoun Academy. They will face, whoever wins that game will face the winner of Lee and St. John's Christian. Thomas Hayward Calhoun Academy will be on Saturday, so that we moved back a day. College and Prep Youth Academy is still scheduled for Friday, and the winner of that one will play either Williamsburg or Bethesda Academy in the state championship. So just running through the game times for the high school league and the days. Bluffton and South Florence will play on Wednesday. Crestwood Beaufort scheduled for Friday, but could move back to Saturday. Wade Hampton at Oceanside set for Friday, and then Carver's Bay at Estill will be on Saturday. So we got games on 3 different days, which I think is kind of cool to be able to kind of follow some different games on more days, which is fun for us as journalists and local football fans.
Yeah, you're gonna have your high school games on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and Saturday, and then have your college games on Saturday and your pro games on Sunday. So
there we go.
It's just a full week of football.
You love to see it. A lot of football on tap. And before we let you guys go and get ready to watch the football in these next few days, let's name our players of the week. Looking back at week 1 of the postseason, Dylan, I will give you the first pick. Who you got as your player of the week?
This kid has been playing spectacular all year, especially out of this offense. And I think if there's an edge here, this kid is the edge. Devontae Green, he's the player of the week. He had 221 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns against the playoff win against OP. So, having a big game like that in the playoffs, that's what you want to see out of your best players. And, if Carlton decides not to stop him, he could really be the difference maker in this game.
Yeah, Devontae Green, he has been – you can kind of say the 1A and 1B with Jackson Porter. I think they both really have been deserving of high praise, but it was the Devontae Green show in that first-round playoff win, and he really took it over, and that was huge for Buford Academy to get that efficiency and production from him on the ground, and he has been stellar all year, and they're going to rely on him down the stretch as we get further in this playoffs, and that could be a big factor in that matchup with Carleton Prep as they look to clinch a spot in the state championship game. For my player of the week, I know I picked him a week ago, but I think I'm going to have to go back to Max von Hohenstraten once again, who delivered yet another sensational performance for the Bluffton Bobcats as they take down their opponent in the first round and advance to round 2 here of the South Carolina High School League postseason. They take down Westwood 49-20. 401 passing yards for Von Hohenstraten with 5 touchdowns to Jalen Linder. And once again, Von Hohenstraten showcasing his elite touch on the deep ball and his ability to read the field and just the poise that he's developed in the pocket. And I think a lot of that is due to Hayden Gregory and his experience in leading teams over in his past roles as coach, and now taking over this head coaching opportunity. He has really shined, and I think he's unlocked something in Jalen Linder. I think you can also say he's unlocked a lot in Von Hohenstraten as well. So another outstanding game for Max. 401, 5 touchdowns, also through passes to Ethan Golfin, who's been kind of a nice change of pace back, and another receiver out of the backfield for the Bobcats. And Kamari Simmons, kind of the X factor with that terrific speed. And then connected with Brandon Bryant for 84 yards. So love what I'm seeing from Von Hohenstraten. What an opportunity that he will get to go up against Syracuse commit Norwood Sellers in South Florence.
Yeah, you look at the stats the last 2 weeks, he has 900 passing yards and 10 touchdowns thrown. So, I think we have to deem his nickname Mad Max, because ever since he's got back from injury, he's playing mad and he wants to score a lot. So he's doing his thing, and a great opportunity to play against, a guy who's going Division I football. It gives him the opportunity to say, hey, I can play as well as this guy. So best of luck to the Bluffton Bobcats. It's going to take full effort. But, the way Max von Hohenstraten is playing right now, anything seems possible for the Bluffton Bobcats.
What an opportunity for Von Hohenstraten, and what a statement that he could make if he can pull off something special over the year against South Florence and the North Stars. And I expect him to leave it all out on the field in that opportunity. So congratulations on another great season for Von Hohenstraten and the Bluffton Bobcats, and just love what Hayden Gregory has done and the culture that he has instilled in this group, and a lot more to come from that program in the years in the future. So really excited for week 2 here of playoff action, and 6 teams left, and hopefully we can have a few teams still in it a week from today, and then some state championship bound SCISA teams to talk about a week from now. So we'll have Lowco Pigskin live as always. Not sure what day we'll do it, either Friday or Saturday, but we will round up all of the various scores and have all the recaps and analysis with our Lowco correspondents here on Lowco Pigskin Live in a few days. So for Dylan Price, this is Wes Kerr. Thank you for joining us, and enjoy all the football action here in week 2 of the South Carolina High School League and SCISA playoffs. And until next time, go Lowco.